Every shooter plays the same now. Why is every game a COD or Apex clone? Remember when FPS games actually innovated? After a somewhat rocky launch, many people were quick to write the finals off. But not because of the issues seen in Season 1 itself. The vast majority of the discussion was about the player count from people fixated on Steam charts, assuming that a player drop meant that the game was dead or dying. But that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and as we've seen time and time again, those numbers don't tell the full story. The finals is thriving on consoles, queue times are lightning fast, SBMM is non-existent, performance is industry-leading, the gameplay is revolutionary and innovating, and they not only have a promising roadmap for the rest of the year, but also a $100,000 major tournament coming up. I can assure you that this game is finally back. This is the best shooter of the decade, and you're not playing it. If you're new here, my name is Artie, and I'm a full-time esports commentator, and while I used to be a full-time Valorant coach, this year I'm switching off of Valorant into games that I actually enjoy playing. And if you hit that subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. I like to keep these intros short, so let's talk about the finals. You probably know about the finals by now, and you probably have heard a lot of stuff about the game losing its players quickly. We'll start this video off by talking about why a lot of players didn't stick around during Season 1, and spoiler alert, every single one of those issues has been fixed. While a lot of people would talk about the gameplay first, one of the most striking issues on PC that led to the dip in players on Steam was performance. During Season 1, there were a ton of people with low-end PCs running the game just fine, but with higher-end systems experiencing stutter and frame skipping. The first patch ended up with very mixed results, with people who had issues before being able to run the game fine, but introducing issues and FPS loss to people who were running fine before. I can confidently say that all of that has since been fixed. Not only that, but since Season 4, the performance has been getting better with each update as Embark continues to work on various optimizations on the engine level. The game is running better than ever now that we're on Season 6. But performance wasn't the issue for the vast majority of the players not sticking around, especially considering the console crowd. Instead, one of the earliest issues in the game was with regards to some extremely overpowered and easily abused mechanics. At first glance, it sounds like a simple overlooked balance issue, but it wasn't as easy as adjusting damage profiles of certain gadgets. When the game launched, there was a big nuke problem. The strat was something that even the developers had shown off in an official video to talk about the sandbox of the game, and different approaches that you could take with it. To make a nuke, a heavy player would just throw C4 on an explosive barrel, and the compounding explosion of the C4 plus the barrel would be enough to delete medium players. This was slowly nerfed until Season 2, when they made some massive changes that fixed that problem entirely. But it wasn't just the nukes. There used to be a very broken specialization in the game for mediums called recon senses. This was basically a wall hack that worked way too well and was eventually removed from the game altogether. And since launch, the developers have been a lot faster to implement a heavy emphasis on balance while sticking to their creative vision of the game. There aren't many developers that would realize that an item in the game was so problematic that it requires removal. And as for Embark, they've proven to us many times over that they really care about creating a balanced environment where every weapon, gadget, and specialization remains just as viable as anything else. But the final nail in the coffin for many players wanting to try the game out at first was the steep learning curve and the lack of other game modes on launch. For new players, if you didn't play the beta, there was a lot to learn, especially as far as playing the objective, understanding movement mechanics and team play, and getting nuked around every corner did not make this much easier. Skill floor is a different topic to address, especially in an objective-based game like the finals, but the solution is to add easier game modes where the objective is still important but less complicated to understand. Season 2 introduced the first new game mode called Power Shift, and they've been adding more game modes ever since, with Terminal Attack making a brief appearance as the official ranked mode. And with Team Deathmatch finally being added now in Season 6, there are now a ton of new ways for players to get experience without having to jump into the main mode. But adding new game modes did more than just add ways for players to get experience with the game. It also added a lot of new avenues for Embark to create a very rewarding progression system, but we'll talk about that a bit later in the video. I think we've addressed enough of how the finals has had its redemption arc since Season 1, so now let's talk about why you should be paying attention to this game, and let's look at the problems with gaming in general that the finals fixes. No matter what game it is, you'll always hear about players complaining about SBMM.
Skill-based matchmaking.
If SBMM wasn't a thing, I would stream multiplayer. SBMM, I've said this before and I'll say it again, man. SBMM is I dare say, killing video games.
Well, folks, the finals does not and has not ever had SBMM implemented. It also doesn't have any form of engagement optimized matchmaking either. This is the one that many people are upset about with titles like Marvel Rivals and COD. The only time SBMM was ever enabled in this game was during a small test window with the launch of Season 2, and it was met with such backlash that it was disabled after 2 days. But regardless, to so many people out there who complain about SBMM or EOMM, this is your game. This is your time to shine. Another issue we've seen time and time again is gamers complaining that every single game is the same these days. And while I have a whole video talking about how Fragpunk is not the same as Valorant, the majority of the discussion around that game is about how they're so similar that it can't be ignored. The same can be said for Marvel Rivals when compared to Overwatch, or any Battle Royale title compared to Warzone or Apex or PUBG, or Valorant itself being compared to CS2, or COD being compared to XDefiant, rest in peace. And the list goes on. But the finals is truly the first of its kind. Fully destructible environments, a fully unique objective, and overarching game design. There is no other game that has anything close to what the finals has to offer as far as pure new game design goes. Coming off the back of that, you can't tell me that the finals does not have some of the most beautiful maps you've ever seen. Combined with fully destructible environments that even put older Battlefield titles to shame, with a satisfying movement system, fluid physics engine, and strikingly good gunplay, this game is genuinely a breath of fresh air on the market, and to be honest, that should be reason enough to give this game another shot if you have not already. But if you're not convinced yet, I'm not even done. This video still has some more minutes of runtime left, so let's keep going. The Finals is the first game that truly feels like a next generation shooter. Even just booting up the main menu to see your character, you can tell that this game was made with love and care. So let's start by talking about the graphics and the optimization. If you have an RTX card, the Finals enables ray tracing by default. I recommend you turn it off or at least adjust the settings to your preference here. But the good news, you can tweak every setting in real time, even mid-match, without needing to restart your game. On the optimization side of things, this game also has the best frame generation implementation that I've ever seen. The input delay is minimal as long as your base FPS is above 120. Compare that to COD Warzone and its extreme latency when you're using frame gen, it is night and day, and the finals truly changed my opinion on frame gen in multiplayer titles. I have yet to see another game with frame gen feel this good with it enabled. DLSS is also implemented perfectly here, offering sharp visuals with better performance and lower input latency. In most cases, DLSS alone is enough, making frame generation unnecessary for the vast majority of NVIDIA users. Overall, this game is really worth playing at higher settings for just how beautiful everything is. Hell, even on the lowest settings, the design philosophy of the game itself is striking. The effects, the lighting, the depth of field, everything looks good even on low settings. But that's just the graphics. Let's talk about the game now. The gunplay is fun and extremely rewarding. There's no secondary weapons, so you have to be pretty careful about managing your reloads during a fight, but that makes for a clear pacing in team fights and engagements. The weapon choices in this game are amazing as well. Melee weapons, pistols, grenade launchers, rifles, SMGs, shotguns, and now even a minigun. Compared to other shooters with designated roles like duelists, supports, tanks, etc., the finals takes an asymmetric approach with heavy, medium, and light contestants. Light players are glass cannons with abilities that can help with movement and weapons that deal a surprising amount of damage. Of course though, you are still a tiny 150 HP light player. Then you've got heavies, which are big and easier to shoot, but with 350 HP, it's gonna take a lot longer to kill them. And they rely on shields, big explosions, and beefy weapons with high damage but slow reloads. The balance between the classes feels intuitive even for new players. Then of course you have mediums, who do have some movement in the form of gadgets with zip lines and jump pads, and a very creative dematerializer specialization that makes moving through the destructible environments super easy. But the damage output of the weapons here is balanced to be in the middle of the pack. This is the part of the video that I was talking about earlier. The progression in the finals has been amazing over the past few seasons, especially since they added World Tour. If you have ever wanted that perfect mix of ranked and quick play without SBMM, World Tour is that. You earn points even if you get last place, but obviously winning first place gets you points a lot quicker, and these points will place you higher and higher in the World Tour ranking system up to Emerald. There's a similar system for quick play as well, and of course you have your classic ranked system too. The rewards for these are pretty amazing as well, and to be honest, you don't need to spend any money on weapon cosmetics because if you get the ranked ones, well, that's the way to show off. Besides that, there's your player level, weapon and gadget levels, and sponsor circuits allowing you to complete challenge to earn unique cosmetics. No matter what you're doing, you are leveling up and earning XP towards some sort of progression. And you're going to need to unlock weapons as well, so while you're playing, you earn VRs in every single game that you play that you use to unlock new weapons, gadgets, specializations, as well as sights for your weapons. And the best part, there is no way to pay real money to unlock these faster. That's right, you have to play the game to get enough VRs to unlock everything. This should be standard practice in today's world, in this economy, but alas, at least the finals is one of the few games to get it right. So, if you tried the game before, but you haven't been back since launch, or if you haven't tried the game at all, why should you play? Well, for starters, if you're one of the more than 10 million players that downloaded this on launch and have since put the game down for one of the reasons that I listed in the beginning, this is your sign to give it another shot. When it comes to gaming discourse, you always hear the phrase, vote with your wallet. And this is one of the games that really deserves that support. When developers are actively listening to the community and working towards building something that is truly game-changing, genre-defining, and doing it in the right way, they deserve the support of a much wider community. Not to mention, the cosmetics in this game are quite fairly priced, and I love that they have bundles where instead of just paying for the in-game currency, you also get skins along with it. The battle passes alone contain such high-quality skins, and combined with the fact that the battle pass earns you your money back in in-game currency, so your next battle pass is free, plus some extra on the side, it's just good consumer-friendly practices all around. And finally, as I mentioned in the intro, this game is just starting to ramp up. Not only have they teased what's in store for Season 7 and Season 8, but in addition to the $100,000 tournament coming up later this year, Embark's publisher Nexon announced a partnership with Tencent to create a version of the finals adapted for launch in the Chinese market. If that doesn't ease your mind about the state of the finals, then hopefully your experience in World Tour, Quick Play, or Ranked will change your mind now in Season 6. And now it's your turn. Did this video convince you to give the finals a shot in 2025? Have you been playing all this time? Has Embark addressed your concerns with the game, or did I miss something? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss the next video, and send this one to your friends who are on the fence about the finals. I know if they download it, Season 6 will convince them. I also want to remind you to join the Discord server as well, since I'm streaming this game a lot more and I love queuing up with my community. Thank you so much for watching, and don't worry, you'll see me around.